Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's David Palmer, the Leo King, and we are here for Deep Astrology live for the week of April the 2nd through the 8th of 2019. Thanks so much for being here. I don't know if you've ever watched the show before, but this is where I channel the astrology of the week, and then we go deep into the charts. And you know what? Have you ever checked out Astro Gold? Because the charts are brought to you by there. You can get it on iOS, Android, and for your MacBook or your iMac. But if you're on PC, go check out Solar Fire. Thank you so much for always supplying the charts. And this is a great week. I'm going to say that. I know everybody always, when they tune into this show, is like, is this guy going to just drop some bombs on me this week of just another hard week? Or Definitely a much more positive week than we have been going through for a while. But that doesn't mean that we haven't been having positive energy. I just want to remind people that the core basis of what we've been going through, especially here in 2019, is do not forget that Jupiter is in its home sign of Sagittarius. That no matter what craziness we have gone through, no matter what crazy stories have been going on, everything always ends up okay, and always the right thing happens. And I think that this is very important for people to realize, because when we look at this week, we are coming out of a massive, chaotic storm that we have all been trying to understand, not only our unconscious, but more importantly, we have been having to look at so many deep layers in our life and see if our soul is truly in alignment with who we are. The reason why is this week, yes, we are still in the sun in Aries, and we are going to have a new moon. But before we talk about that new moon, what I think is even bigger is Mercury is going to finally come off of Neptune. Now, Mercury retrograded, of course, for 3 weeks, and then finally on the 29th, it came out of its retrograde, but it was on top of Neptune. And when it's stationary, went direct, it really was on top of Neptune and just has been sitting there. And this has been a very hard transit for Mercury for the last 6 months. This has been a very hard time. And especially if you look at today, Tuesday, as the moon is in Pisces, conjuncting Mercury and Neptune, you're not going to see that. Trust me, that is not something you're going to see. Mercury and Neptune in its home sign with the moon in conjunction at this very weird point. We're really this week about moving finally forward. Mars is in Gemini now, and a new moon in Aries. And this new moon in Aries is very important. It is at 15 degrees of Aries, and it is going to square the first eclipse we had in 2019 at 15 degrees of Capricorn. So we are halfway through the eclipse cycle that has been continuing on through this 6 months until we have that next solar eclipse on July 2nd. So this is a big halfway point in your life about really looking at if you are aligned in your path and your soul path. There are two different paths in life. There's a soul path, and then there's the life and what we're here to achieve and what we're here to accomplish and what our karma is kind of set to do in reality. But this is all of it that has been a very mixed up mess. It is like truly being like at the bottom of the ocean and having seaweed on top of us and trying to work our way through the seaweed, and it's in knots and it's just like all over the place. And then this Mercury-Neptune conjunction has been in semi-square to Uranus and Taurus. So talk about entanglements. This has been a time where you are trying to untangle so many things, so many knots in your soul about what really is the best road forward in your life. Is it really a time in your life where you really have to look at, is this really the best? Is this really what I feel is the best for my soul mission, the best for my life mission on this path, and more importantly, who I really am? And I'm going to bring up relationships because this is going to be what this is going to really bring up. Because following this new moon in 2 weeks is going to be another full moon in Libra. And within this next 2-week cycle after this new moon on Thursday, we are going to have Venus get ready to come through the chaotic energy of this Neptune transit and the semi-square to Uranus. But this week is us getting our power back. This new moon in Aries, Aries is ruled by Mars, the sun's exalted here. And this is a very powerful new moon because it's about giving us the energy to move forward. And when we look at Mars, Mars is in Gemini, and Gemini rules Mercury. All these dispositors are actually going to be happy because Mars is in a sign where it can finally move forward. It's free. It's out of its detriment in Taurus. It's in Gemini, ready to start simulating, ready to change the environment, and ready to get things moving forward. This is also the last week of all the planets direct. We have been blessed by God to have all of this energy with all these planets moving forward, but at the same token, Retrogrades are necessary because we are just flying at the speed of light, and at some moments we don't really have any traction, and we get to a point where it's like, is this thing going to stop? You know what I mean? Like whenever you're on one of those simulators, you know, it's like, woo, yeah, this is really cool. But it's like, imagine being in a simulator with like the light speed of Star Wars, freaking for like 3.5 months. You're just kind of like, okay, I'm ready for it to kind of stop for a second. Because we are at a place where we need to kind of like cultivate all this energy. Even though all the planets direct are great, the truth is that we start missing things because we are flying so fast forward. Even though there are these transits that have been rather slow or feeling like things are slow, especially with Saturn in its home sign, and we've got, you know, Mars that went through Taurus, and then Mercury in its fall position, retrograde on Neptune. Yeah, sure, it is processing things in the middle of a hyperspeed of our soul journeys. And I think it's very important to note that when we do look at what's going on with this new moon, it is making a square to Saturn with the south node on Pluto and with the south node starting to make its conjunction to Saturn. So we've got this south node Pluto-Saturn conjunction going on in Capricorn. Very, very rare. Probably one of the rarest transits we will ever experience in our lives. And really this is a very intense battle because with the North Node of Cancer, it's very important for us to remember the humility of being a human being. That, you know what, yes, we have accomplishments. Yes, we have things to do here on this planet. But we need to remember that we come from an emotional body. And I think that that's so important for us to remember that, yes, we want to strive. Yes, we want to survive. South Node on Pluto, survival, penetration. Get what you need, get what you want, but gee, many Christmas, are you going to put yourself through an emotional tailspin through all that? Are you going to, you know, cut yourself off from emotion completely? Although this is where I'm going to bring up this whole kind of confusion, where I'm going to bring up this whole emotional thing dealing with moving forward and taking action and excitement of really starting to see things that are moving forward. What I want to talk about is with a South Node in Capricorn, Pluto-Saturn conjunction, you know what? We can have the power to strive and achieve. But this North Node reminds us in Cancer that we have to understand what are those things that we are going to achieve, and are they bringing us to a place that is emotionally comfortable, that is emotionally of the right thing to do in life? Because I'm saying the right thing to do because we are human beings. We are in a very, very intense time with all these very rare aspects going on in astrology, especially South Node, Pluto-Saturn conjunction, where we do not want to turn ourselves into these dark human beings that will just strive to do whatever we have to do to get whatever we want. And especially with a new moon in Aries, you know, this whole, I want this, I'm ready to go, I'm over what I've gone through, let's just get out of this mess, I am ready to hightail out of here. But you have to remember that Neptune in Pisces, and with this North Node in Cancer, is reminding us that, you know, we do have the pressure of the world on us. Reality and structures and rules and bills and bankers and all these things that we got to still show up for and produce for. Uranus and Taurus is telling us, you know, even though it wants to try to escape and just peace out and just say, F you, I'm over money, I'm over creating, I'm over having to do things. That's the whole Neptune semi-square Uranus thing, is this is not going away. Neptune and Uranus are going to be semi-squaring all year. And what this means is, in order for us to understand our humanity and ourselves and the collective consciousness, this is a time in our lives where we do have to step up. We do have to move into our karma and our spiritual mission and our alignment. And we do have to make tough choices with emotional humility. And I think that this is what's very difficult, is we see people on both sides of the spectrum, or either or. It's like, one, it's like, oh, I'm emotionally comfortable and happy, so I'm going to stay here because this is what makes me feel good, this is what's good. But Saturn and Pluto, no matter how dark this might be with the South Node or how much it can create some sort of an illusion here with K2 here, it is also a reminder that we all did come here for a big mission. And I think that the ultimate happy emotional place is the fulfillment of that. And this is the hard part, is with relationships, especially whether it's with projects or lovers, or even if you look deeper into just Venus's element of creation of your own value. This is where Uranus is in Taurus telling it we have to step it up. And this is where with this new moon finally here, we are waking up out of being numb. I hate to say it, we have all gone through, whether it's a fun, exciting dream or a horrible nightmare. That's the whole part of this Neptune-Mercury transit we've been going through for weeks, okay? And I have to say that this is a wake-up call week. Yes, it's positive because it's about moving forward, and Mars in Gemini is reminding us now, and especially with this new moon in Aries, that it's time to shift environments. But when you actually look at Mars, right, Mars in Gemini is having to really think factually. And that's hard during Jupiter in its home sign, which is I'll believe anything. I believe we can do it all. But, Mars in Gemini is kind of demanding, listen to these facts, because we cannot win or we cannot achieve or we cannot go if you just are looking at it with this happy-go-lucky attitude. Especially, don't forget that next week, Mercury will square Jupiter again. Mercury in its fall, Jupiter in its home sign, and Jupiter will go retrograde next week as this is all going down. So my reminder here is that we have to be compassionate, we have to be honorable human beings, but things that don't make sense are going to come up the extreme, and you are going to wake up from your fantasies. The fantasy is over. And there was beautiful parts of it, and there was horrific parts, because with dreams or with visions, they're beautiful and they're horrible at the same time. It's like being on a gnarly acid trip. The beginning can be hell, the end can be amazing, or vice versa. Or there's no control over where it goes. But we are all waking up from our own delusions, and you really don't notice that till Mercury crosses and passes Neptune completely, and then this new moon happens in Aries, which is very defined, and Mars reminds us in Gemini, here's the facts, kid. You want to get to where you want to go in life, you want to go what you came here to do, here's the facts. I've been trying and I've been waiting to give them to you, but you've been in a chamber with a virtual reality set on a bunch of, numbed out medications from the universe trying to figure this all out. And so all the stuff that you've gone through, especially for the last 5 weeks, let's say, as Mercury has been in. Remember, I told everybody that Mercury would be in Pisces for over 60 days. You got to realize that, there's been a lot of great moments. There's been a lot of horrific moments. There's been a lot to up and down. But I'm here to remind you this week that this is a new moon that is squaring the new moon in Capricorn that we had with the South Node. This is a big turning point in people's lives of waking up and starting to have to make choices and stop sitting on the fence. You can't be Humpty Dumpty anymore and unsure about falling or not. You're either going to fall or you're going to sit up there. What are you going to do? There is no more bouncing around. There's been a lot of pondering. There's been a lot of processing, all these deep layers, and witnessing and understanding so many unconscious elements. But this new moon is demanding you now to have to make a choice. With this square to the South Node in Saturn, and with Pluto in the South Node finishing this week, you are going to have to make a commitment. And is this the best for your long term? And is this the best of really where you want to go emotionally? And Uranus semi-squaring all this Neptune aspect is still going to tell you, are you going to leave your whole soul mission because you're afraid to let go of something that you are holding on to like a little hoarder? This is where our souls are hoarding. We are all soul hoarders. We're afraid to truly disconnect from things that we have value to, that we imagine are beautiful, that we think is going to be the best thing for us. But Uranus has been reminding us, hey, maybe it's not. Maybe you need to look at something different, that's better, that's of more quality. And there's no coincidence that all these kind of major transits are happening in the middle of a 2 full moon energy in Libra, of really truly having to balance things out. And more importantly, look at relationships. And with Venus that's about to enter into this, kind of fantasy, I think that people are going to have kind of a really weird wake-up call with this, because it's like we are zapping out and having to really start to move back on the trail of what makes sense, because the long-term choices we make affect the emotions. And this is a very intense one, because this is where you do have to remember that even though there is no right or wrong of the north or south node, which one's better, they both interconnect. And your ultimate goal, of course, is Cancer with the north node. But if you are choosing to commit to a path with a certain person, a project, this situation that you dream and you fantasize and you think is all great and gravy, but it's really not truly in alignment as taking you to where you need to really go. Long term down the road, you might be comfortable now, but do you really actually get there? Do you actually get there? And this is where we're going to see a very big divide in a lot of people. I'm just going to be real. Because delusions become not delusions anymore, but they actually become a reality check. And this is where it's exciting, because it's about the empowerment of self, the empowerment of shifting your environment. Mars rules, your identity. And when it's in Gemini, it's looking at, is this environment truly an environment that is going to factually make sense, going to actually get me to where I want to achieve by me understanding all the truth that's going on. And I think that this is going to be difficult, because when Mercury comes off of this Neptune, it's got the big square to Jupiter, which is stationed. It's stopping here at this 24th degree, and it's going to go retrograde and square this spot. And that is going to be a very tough reality check of what you believe is this over-optimistic, amazing thing, that maybe you've been just in your own container of thinking that you can either A, fix this with Mercury that stopped and went direct, square or semi-square Uranus and Taurus. We have to all remember that now we are 2 weeks away from the Sun and Uranus going to conjunct in Taurus for the first time in our lives in over 70 years. So you have to remember here that if you really are buying into a certain story that you know on the deepest part of your subconscious soul has something that is not fully aligned, and you're laughing it off, and you're smiling it off, and you're putting on more frosting over it, you need to realize that this is a great week, because you can come out of the delusion. But the reality of facing the real truth is not going to be the easy part. Now, I know I opened up with how great this week is, and now it might seem like this might not sound great. But if we are true conscious human beings and we are truly about awareness, we need to all be aware of the delusions of grandeur. Literally, I will use that term one more time, the delusions of grandeur that we have all created about certain situations in our life, about our soul mission and the betterment of our lives and where we really could go. Or are we going to hold ourselves back because we're too afraid to truly finally break apart our hoarder energy inside of ourselves that just can't let go of something because we find some sort of value and security in something that really honestly is just been a temporary fix, like doing a line of cocaine to get through. Or just, slamming down a shot of whiskey just to get through your nerves. Because you really don't want to deal with the truth of that your light work, your soul mission, and the whole reason why you were here was really now at this true point. The trading wheels are off, and people are wanting to be back in the fantasy that the training wheels are still on, which actually I think this whole Mercury retrograde, conjunct Neptune, and all this stuff with the semi-square to Uranus, which I don't hear any freaking astrologers talking about this. This is like the most intense part of it. This semi-square is like delusions that are crazy, that actually we think we can fix anything, or we can truly, hold on to something and it will take us where we need to go. It would literally be like if you and I were to get on a ship and I wanted to take a huge boulder that I saw on this huge mountain, and I said, let's get King Kong to come and bring that fucking boulder and drop it on the boat and we'll just sail home no problem. Sounds fun, sounds like a great movie, but that boat will sink. The one thing about South Node, Saturn, and Pluto is it is a boat sinker. Think about that one. This Aries energy is about identifying and remembering the core of who you are. And now, because we were in a full moon in Libra on the start of the equinox, which this is now bringing us to this new point. This is the first new moon in Aries of the new year, and this one is saying that it is finally now time, as Mercury comes off Neptune, this is a new story now. So whatever's gone on for the weeks prior, whatever's gone on prior to all this, and especially if you start going into, this Mars energy in Gemini, you got to remember it's been a couple years since Mars has been in Gemini. Whatever has gone on these last couple years, I'm sorry, all that is all over. You need to reassess everything now. You might not want to hear that. You might think that you've got it all figured out right now. Or if you're really aware, it feels more like you actually don't have it all figured out. And the truth is because we are holding on to things that we truly know are not really going to make it on the journey. And the more that we ditch and let go, and I know it sounds fucking horrible. I know it sounds like, oh my God, it's a bad thing, it's not human to do. But, I think there is the reminder here with the South Node and Pluto and Saturn is not to be cold. It's not to be non-human. But it's also a reality check to the fact that in order for us to achieve where we need to go, the ultimate place is an emotional place of security, of happiness, and we need to make sure that we are not, as human beings, and more importantly, as conscious souls, antagonizing, and it's almost like being a drug addict and continuing to help your other drug addict friend continue on the drug addict path. The addiction to being afraid of really seeing your true power. The addiction of holding yourself back from that true power. Because you're too afraid to really see what it's like to step up to the plate. You're too afraid to actually take on a motive, take on an initiative, and truly find the emotional place that you have never reached in your life. Because that's what a North Node in Cancer is reaching a place emotionally that you haven't been before. And if you think that you have reached it now and you've already got it all there and it's all there, then that is the delusion. Especially as Venus is about to come through Neptune and then come through the semi-square to Uranus, which Uranus is in Taurus. Now this isn't happening this week, but this new moon is setting us up for the next 2 weeks with a full buildup of a 2-week waxing moon to a full moon for the second full moon in Libra. And that's why I'm saying relationships are coming into the biggest part of this whole entire deal. And that's why I think that they are the center of what's going on, because this is about you for 1 minute, and I would say more like, the next whole week, turning off all of the energy that is outside of yourself and putting it inside of your own self and having to go, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, and what energy 100% aligns with it and is actually doing it and doesn't have these hang-ups, doesn't have these things, because I'm sorry to say, for us to save this planet as light workers and to change the world, we can no longer be playing games as light workers with trying to help build up people and situations that don't have the power already within them in our personal lives. Because the North Node in Cancer is about your personal life. When it comes to your personal life, this is the hardest choice that you're ever going to have to make, because your personal life is what is going to connect you to understanding where you're going to go in your life and if you're going to achieve this or not. And this is where many people fail in their whole entire life journey, is not taking the risk of, more importantly, ascending to a better place by going into the unforeseen. The scariest part of life is letting go of what we think is the best to find better. I know that might be a lot to take in right there. I know it might be a lot. But welcome to the wake-up call. And I think that this is a very important placement, because just look at Jupiter stationing about to come retrograde. So sure, you've gotten a lot of great experience. You've opened up a lot. You've seen a lot of things. But the retrograde is kind of deflating, especially when Jupiter's in its home sign. I can tell you as an astrologer, the one transit I don't like in my top 3 is Jupiter retrograde. Because basically the cup's full. And the retrograde is us reviewing now if this is really what we really want to take and go on an adventure with, if this is really knowledge we want to take with us or not. And with Mercury getting ready to square that spot next week, and it's funny how I keep bringing us to next week, because people need to start thinking out. We have been way too in our own incubators. We have been little chickens in, not even hatched, in little incubators and next to little eggs, and totally believing that it's all okay and everything's fine and I'll work this out and blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm sorry to say that the little kindergartners are picking us all up out of the incubators this week and going to start moving the eggs around, and we are all going to start being like, what the hell? This is really what's going on. And so this is where it's like going to be a massive, massive new moon, because it is truly going to be about trying to understand clarity, which has been not clear at all. And it's been delusional thinking. Oh yeah, I can fix this, or this is totally what works, or this is where I should be going, or this is exactly what I think I should be, or this is exactly who should be with me, or blah, 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 blah. It's like, we've been in a state of, higher consciousness at the same time. But it's whether or not you are stepping into your leadership of leading the way in your own life and having to accept the emotional truth that, is this emotionally who I am? Am I emotionally giving my energy to something that is actually bringing me value to the highest degree? And that is something that is very difficult. And what separates Taurus value from high to low is Uranus deals with other people. It deals with your ability to understand all the pieces. And when it's in Taurus, it's like that moving truck show that comes into town and checks the antiques out and says, yeah, that's worth $25,000. That's an antique Chinese, gong or something from 3000 BC. And then it's the woman or the guy who comes up with this thing. Oh, this thing's Abraham Lincoln's, the gun that shot him, up in the booth, whatever. And it's like, nope, actually it's really not. If you see this, you see the casing and you go down in here, actually it's 1924. See that right there? He was dead before that. Oh, I never saw that. I was told this story the whole time. I believed it. I actually thought I was painting this story in my head that was the gun that shot Lincoln the whole time. Wait, what? We are all about to go through that in our lives. Because the truth about being this higher up vibration that Uranus demands, that's been in battle with Neptune in its home sign, especially with Neptune in its home sign, Uranus at its fall position, and with Mercury that's been on top of it, Mercury has been fucked over. Hard. So if you think that you really logically have any sense of clarity and what you know is coming up next, you would be completely shocked over the next 2 weeks. Because once this new moon hits on Thursday, once Mercury comes off Neptune, it's no more games, because when Jupiter goes retrograde on the 10th and Mercury starts to square Jupiter, we either buy our own bullshit or we sell that bullshit away from us, or we actually just let it go completely and we ascend to what is true, what is on a higher value, because now you need to remember, this is the last week of the planets direct. This is the last chance before the tides start to turn and you are stuck. And when I mean stuck, I mean stuck. Look at last year. When all the planets went direct and we started having retrogrades, this one was different because Mercury went retrograde, but then it came direct with all the planets still direct. I've never seen that in my life before. Please, somebody go find me that long of planets direct. A planet then going retrograde, which lucky it was Mercury because it's the shortest retrograde planet, and then it coming direct and all the planets are still direct. Please, somebody tell me that length of amount of direct planets, and then having a retrograde, and then coming back into direct again, and still continuing direct. You had an opportunity for the last 3 to 4 weeks to see the truth by going into the fantasy and by going into playing around in a virtual reality space and actually playing around with things and having great energy or chaotic and both at the same time. But what it was an ultra truth that are you truly in denial of or not? Because this Uranus and Taurus has been looking at it the whole time being like, I have a bird's eye view and I'm in Taurus land and we're all looking at it and we're looking at you in your little delirium little thing as you're playing around with it, and I got some things to tell you here when you come out. And Mars has a lot to say because Mars is leading the pack and Mars loves to lead the pack. And when Mars is leading the pack, and you got Venus, which is exalted in Pisces, which is great, and it's going to come on top of Neptune in Pisces. The hard part of that, which isn't even happening this week, but I'll show you in the charts, is that it's approaching. And it's always the approach that is the most important part of astrology, because when it actually happens, it's kind of over with. But it's this new moon that is this approaching Venus to Neptune, this approaching Mercury, right, going to square Jupiter as it's stationary, getting ready to retrograde. That are you really going to just jump in the second that the energy comes online and say, yeah, I just watched that videotape, I just watched that virtual reality game, I just watched this kind of crazy dream, I'm going with that, let's go? Or are you going to stop Saturn, South Node, Capricorn, assess, North Node, Cancer? Is this the personal, am I personally happy? Am I personally getting the real feelings that I really want? Especially with Uranus, which is semi-squaring all this stuff. It's like you got to realize, are you really like starting to actually kind of discredit yourself and actually kind of go down off the path? Because the dark has been trying to take every light worker and everybody watching on this off their paths. I want that one to sink in hard. Because this light work shit is no bullshit. We didn't come down here to just kind of like, let the dark fuck with us and put us through kind of these crazy Decepticon moments, because this has been deception on your own self. Of believing that you can fix anything or continue to hold on to something that makes zero logical sense at all towards your spiritual mission, your path, and who you really are. And a lot of people talk about twin flames. I'm not one to talk about it. But I like to talk about Libra. And I look at Libra as two balance beams. And of course, there is this kind of identical energy of both sides. But this is where we almost start to delirium-wise or deceive ourselves And actually, it's like beer goggles, right? It's like, oh, yeah, even though I do this and they do that, like, we're very similar. Yeah, right. Is the mission really going in the right directions? Who and what? And these are big Alice in Wonderland questions that you have just been Alice, just literally going, but what is this? And this and this. And you are going to wake up coming out of the hole and realize you're back at a tree, waking up, and you've got a book in front of you, and we are in a Saturnian world. And the only struggle is not the struggle of, the chaos that we've gone through, but the struggle in whether or not we are going to have integrity on the deepest commitment to our personal life of making choices that are going to be the best for us to get us where we need to go, instead of buying into the Decepticon crazy story that you started to believe, especially as Mercury did square in retrograde Jupiter. So we are still in the shadow of that energy. We are still in the shadow of Uranus, which is at 1 degree. Uranus went retrograde at 2 degrees. Neptune is now in new territory. Neptune's never been to 17 degrees before, ever, since the 1850s. So we are all in the deepest subconscious, crazy, weird understanding of what we think is beautiful, what we think is the best for our soul, and all these kind of things, without looking at factual elements that actually are going to tell us a different story when we wake up. And even me telling you all this right now on Tuesday, the 2nd, and this is no April Fool's joke, that's already over. No, I do not have a naked picture on my freaking story. That was set, I think, everywhere. But how deceiving was that April Fool's, huh? Usually April Fool's is kind of like, oh yeah. That one, we were all trying to really deceive each other really hard. So if you really believe that you haven't been even deceived yourself by your own opinions, your own ideas, and more importantly, this Aries energy is about truly moving forward and truly seeing like, this is about, and I don't like to use this word because a lot of spiritual people get triggered by it, but it is about winning. And as a light worker here to change the world in yourself, you need to realize, like, are you ready to win the game? Or are you really going to buy the bullshit that literally was sold to you from, you got to remember with Neptune, there's two sides to Neptune. There is extreme unconscious, and that also means outer worldly beings that can enter through that you don't know are good or bad. And then there's the connection, of course, to the consciousness and to the highest goodest beings and the highest God and truth. But with that element, you don't know what came in to try and give you that story. Look at the world. Look at the crazy things that have happened in these last couple weeks of all this Neptune-Mercury stuff. Whether it's, the Mueller case and what's really behind the report. What's going on? Is he exonerated? Is he not? What's going on? The Jussie Smollett case. Okay, 1 minute he's the victim. Now he's the one charged. Now he's the victim again, supposedly, or didn't do it, but we need to fine him 150 grand. What's going on with that? What's going on with Brexit? Is it a no deal? They voted on multiple deals. Don't know where to go with it. Where's it going? The deadline's April 12th. We have been in a world that does not know what the hell is going on. So anything that you think is totally a yes is totally probably a no. Because anybody that has a sure bet on anything right now is going to watch on that roulette wheel it go to double green, and they didn't have anything on double green, or double zero on green, nothing. They had it on red or black or odds or even. But the universe is about to throw us into that one odd that you weren't expecting. And that's why we need to have courage and confidence, because this is about moving forward and not being willing to hold on to things that the universe is actually going to reveal and show us that we need to shed. Chiron left Pisces, but Mercury went retrograde at 29 Pisces. So if you really think until this Mercury is out of Pisces, out of shadow, by the way, it will come out of shadow at 0 Aries. You do not want to trap yourself with this new moon. Square Saturn and make choices that are going to fuck your personal life up, get you off the mission, and more importantly, not be who you really are. Because the worst part about all this is the Decepticon for Venus is coming at the highest element because of the Uranus square, or semi-square. And Uranus deals with foreign entities, but more importantly, it deals with foreign beings. And it is in a semi-square to Neptune, and it is coming down the pipeline of bringing radical, out there beings that we don't know shit about, with Pluto and Saturn conjunct the South Node in Capricorn to control you, to stop you from truly getting where you know you need to go. But you have something deep in your emotional self that they fucking have you. They have you. You're too afraid to let it go. You're too afraid to fully let it go. You're too afraid to truly, because they have totally come into this reality and fucking gone into everybody's brains and have fucked you up and made you totally spin out of control. And because of that out of control moment, and because of the fear of ascending to a better human being and to a stronger human being that is going to change the world and be of the ultimate light, you are going to dim it down a little, or maybe even a lot, just because you're too afraid to answer to the truth. And every time the truth comes up about something, they throw in a, look at this. No, it's fine. No, it's good. No, it's fine. Because how better else to deceive you than give you the true light, which all light is awareness and information. And this information now is serious. As what else is coming in the 2 weeks after this new moon? Because this new moon is just, I'll be honest, the astrology is like not that big a deal this week. I'm just going to be honest as an astrologer. Yay, it's a new moon. Okay, yeah, Mercury's off Neptune. That's a big fucking deal. But that's about it. I'm sorry to say. It's not like this like overwhelming astrology this week. Like there's this and then there's that and then oh my God. No, it's literally just a new moon, and it's a dark moon in Pisces that conjuncted Venus, that conjuncted Mercury and Neptune. So if you really think that this dark moon in Pisces was just like, oh, this is easy going or whatever. No, you know what it's revealing is all the shit you need to let go of. All the stuff that is no longer serving you anymore. And you can do that by tapping into your true, authentic self and erasing all the stories that have been told to you, disconnecting from everything and focusing on your own self for 1 second, which I know sounds so unspiritual. But the truth is that being a spiritual being, you need to understand that you did come down here, and you did come down here to do work, and you did come down here with a mission, and you did come down here as an identity. And that identity right now is literally on the line, especially with Chiron and Aries, of losing its true understanding of itself to a crazy, radical, fucking dimensional from an outer being or a negative dark entity or crazy radical groups of them that are here to deceive humans into creating themselves into a place where they are numb and they will take on the crap that they know is unfixable, that truly will not make them ultimate happy, will only make them semi-happy, will keep you numb. Will keep you just enough numb, because they know if you do not learn this Uranus and Taurus energy of a better life by ascending to a higher place, by not being afraid of whatever has to be let go, and truly learning of true surrender, that's where the real love is. Because love is not an attachment thing. Love is whatever happens at any moment, at any time, and emitting it in yourself and through the whole universe at all times. But they are fucking with the love energy by having you so attached to a delirious story that you believe is so grand and so great especially relationship-wise, whether it's business partners or whether it's lovers, but especially I think this is a very deep love thing because this is Saturn and Pluto's end to the cycle in Libra that happened in 83 exact. With this South Node and with Pluto and Saturn coming within 2 degrees this week of each other, with the South Node at the midpoint of Pluto and Saturn, this is with a double full moon in Libra in this last month, the fucking beginning of the new Saturn-Pluto cycle in Capricorn, of the ultimate dark fucking controlled jail. And if you are not going to listen to this message and the truth that I am trying to fucking bring everything to you with right now, I'm sorry, but there will be no saving. And I know that sounds fucked up. But this is where I'm trying to wake people up. I'm trying to bring Morpheus. Where's Morpheus? I need fucking some red pills. Because these red pills need to be spread out to everybody because everybody is in a fucking lost Decepticon floating around. And how are you going to use this power of this amazing moment of all the planets direct with the new moon in Aries to start the new year with Mars in Gemini? And Mars is going to get ready for its opposition to Jupiter. It's square to Neptune. You need to get prepared here, folks. This new moon is about preparation. Preparation because it is squaring Saturn in the South Node. It is squaring the nodes. It is squaring the exact position of the beginning of this year's solar eclipse in Capricorn. This is not fun and games when you just allow yourself to believe in some crazy story that deep down, and this is where I'm going to finish. This is what I want to say before we go in the charts. Deep, deep down, underneath the veil of the dark that has clouded and created its own false consciousness within yourself, as you are at the bottom of this false energy that is on top of you, and you are screaming to your higher self the truth through that, you know deep in yourself what is true and what is not. You know what is truly aligned for you and what is not. You know there is something else out there on the horizon that is not what is in front of you right now. And you have to listen to your own self at the bottom of that well right now. And you cannot buy into the story of how good and how birthday cakey it looks, because it's all false. Because the true thing of all the doors that are opening of Jupiter is about being a true wise master and understanding and seeing all the doorways. And with that understanding of all the doorways, the reason why this is so important is you got to remember that Jupiter and Neptune are in square. And the last time that they squared in their home signs was 1852 and 1853, which was Decepticon City, which was the beginning and the understandings of how we got into the Civil War and started this whole entire process of sending out information of, no, this should be this, or this should be that, or this should be this. And people starting to buy crazy stories. This is where alcoholism came extreme. This is where now we see the drug epidemics in life. This is where people start believing crazy radical stories. This is where people just start really starting to lose their understanding of the higher masterful road. That if you really want to be a master and you want to understand all the timelines, which is what Saturn and Capricorn is, and with the South Node, it is going to bring you to the truth of whether or not you are really going to be on the road to the path to the ultimate personal journey of true comfort, or if you are going to choose the comfort of actually not taking the real risk in life to actually a better place to get out of the prison, to get out of the jail, because I hate to say that Saturn rules jail, rules prison. So does Neptune and Pisces. Hate to be honest with you. I know a lot of astrologers throughout the years who have brought up that Neptune, even in trine, even in positive aspects, conjunctions, whatever, always will have a deceptive energy to it. And I'm just here to wake people up, because this is also, if you look at the decans of astrology and you go to the very specific ones of where Neptune is right now at 17 and coming to 18 degrees, this is a Mercury ruled position, and it is a double Mercury ruled position. And I am here to tell you that this is the deception in your mind. This is programming in your mind. This is coming from whether it's the media, the television, or more importantly, it's coming beyond that. It's coming through your dreams. It's coming through when you're sleeping. It's coming through in very radical ways that you don't even know about, because it's here to test you to see who can we get to not be on their true authentic self fully. Fully. Because to actually be that fully now requires you to have zero attachment. Because the way to get up to the elevator now, and I'm going to bring up one last trigger, is if you ever watched the movie In Time with Justin Timberlake, the only way that you even stayed alive was if you had enough time. And to get to the higher levels, to get to the place that you need, you had to have as much time. You know, if you had to have hours and days and years and millions of years of time to even like go or gamble with time. Well, they're trying to play and see who's going to stay into this area while they start locking the gates and start creating this world of where to get to the good space, they know people aren't in their true selves. They're numb. They're not paying attention. They're sitting in their little stories and they're believing them and they're okay. Because the ultimate darkest part of the planet is happening at the moment right now. And you know what's the craziest? Is they are not physically here. They're in another dimension. So they don't have power or control over what you do, but they can persuade, but they can come through. And more importantly, they can create visions and stories, and more importantly, affect your mind and brainwash you and have you believe in radical stories that when you actually remember we are in a timeless universe. And when you connect to your deep soul and you look to the well again, look to your true self and to your higher self and see how many layers of how much are the dark trying to mask that true voice right now inside of you that's yelling, that knows the deep truth, that you know what you're holding on to so hard is creating fear. And that fear is blocking you from being a leader fully. That fear is distracting you and keeping you in a distracted place so you don't show up every day, so you don't do your great light work, and more importantly, so you go into an environment where they can cage you. And I bring this up in my video. You can purchase it at theleoking.com, what I talk about, which honestly is this portal. This is a portal, and this little 3-week portal of the Mercury retrograde that happened that we're exiting out of right now was the ultimate portal of hurdling cattle. Uranus and Taurus hurdled a lot of cattle, even humans as cattle. And I am just waking people up to, as the world powers are about to shift in the next 2 weeks, and especially by the end of April, we're getting ready for Pluto retrograde, we're getting ready for Jupiter retrograde, we're getting ready for Saturn to retrograde at the end of the month, beginning of May. We have got some major retrogrades coming here. And this is about not fucking around anymore, especially as the sun is getting ready to conjunct Uranus and is getting closer in Taurus. This is your moment where this new moon, you reset. And you don't buy all that stories. And even though everything that you went through, there's a lot of great, there's a lot of positive, but now that Mercury's direct and it's going to pass Neptune, Mercury has not been seeing straight at all. I'm going to show you in the charts right now. I know it sounds like, fuck, dude, is this guy going to tell me anything good? You know, whenever I watch The Matrix, and the deeper I got into that movie, and it's one of the greatest trilogies of all time to truly wake people up. But I don't know if you remember, Neo was pissed. You know, not only was he pissed in his own life, but he was pissed that when he woke up, you know, like, it was just like, you know, what is this? What is all this? I took the risk, I did it, and this is what I got? But it wasn't until he finally took it in and started the training and went through and truly accepted the release of a false understanding of life that he was living to become the one, which we all, I feel, are here to do, and truly change the world and truly help the world. And this is where, for light workers, and I'm speaking honestly more to people who are awake and who are even understanding of this energy than I am to anybody who probably thinks I'm just speaking gibberish. But you need to remember that there were other people that were in the Matrix that didn't want it and were willing to go to the dark side and trade secrets of where they were to just go eat a steak again, or to just go have a hot chick again, or to whatever, to just go back into the numbness of the story in which is being deceived on all of us. And this is the greatest wake-up call of all time that is happening as we're speaking. And it is whether or not you listen to that inside voice and you see that the dark has done everything it can to have you afraid of losing things: money, possessions, and relationships. Those three things are the trigger points that show you when you can surrender to all those three things and say, I'm ready just for my mission, universe, I'll show up with whatever, that you have passed. But if you are still in a place of any of those three, then that's how you know you have drank the Kool-Aid. So we're going to do this really fast because I want to get out of here, but I do have a lot. So the reason why I'm showing you this is let's see. Maybe it's on the computer. It needs to be popped up. Hold on. Yeah, I'm popped up. It just, the app itself probably needs to come up. Yeah. Sorry about that, folks. Does it work now? The ultimate Decepticon. The reason why I'm talking to you all like this is as I ran this chart to come here on this, the moon, Mercury, and Neptune all conjuncted at 17 degrees. And I could feel it more than ever. Look at Mercury passing Neptune finally, and here's Neptune that Mercury's been sitting on, and the moon passed this spot and definitely brought the subconscious truth and the mind, body, and the true mind, the true soul mind, to understanding this story of the past, of things of the past that are restricting us from moving forward, because this semi-square is to Uranus, which is about moving forward. This new moon that is coming in Aries, and the sun exalted in Aries, is about moving forward. The sun is exalted in Aries because it is about understanding the path of this is who you are independently as a soul and what you're here to do. The reason why the sun is at fall position in Libra is because this is where we fall. We fall when, somebody that we have connected our identity to, or some situation that we've identified ourselves to that's outside of ourselves, if it can't meet up to the expectations of us, or if it cannot stand up to the same self as who we are, we fall, especially when we have given up all of our energy to that, and especially now that Uranus and Taurus is getting serious, because Uranus knows it's coming up to 6 degrees, and it's going to come into new territory. So when you have outer planets coming into new territory, like look at Pluto, 23 degrees with the south node. You want to talk about deceiving too? Pluto is deep secrets from the dark side in Capricorn about controlling you. Okay? And then it's at the same time that Mercury, which rules the only understanding of true alchemy, the neutralist planet, the only planet that is truly neutral, that rules astrology, that rules the understanding of the whole universe and the whole alchemical thing, is on top of Neptune, which is the great Oz that is creating a whole entire story that is like honestly trying to deceive and persuade, because Neptune and Pluto deceive and persuade. And they try to find a way to have you believe or to integrate. And that's why these outer planets rule outer entities. They rule outer subconscious realms. They rule the outer realms of your own mind. They rule the deep pockets of your mind that you don't even realize are there. They rule a lot of the cache system in yourself. Like if I'm talking to you like a computer, but this is gnarly shit going on. But we're numb to it. Most people are just numb and like, yeah, everything's fine and great. Because you're not going to see it physically. This is invisible realms. Pluto's invisible realm. South Node's invisible. If you're a Vedic astrologer, you're not even using these. Erase those, and it's just Mercury conjunct the moon. That's why being an evolutionary astrologer, or even going into what I would call like a future astrologer, is about really understanding that we have some major outer planet stuff going on here that is not normal. And that, I'd really like to also bring up the fact that, this is a sun, sure, exalted in Aries, but we have Chiron in Aries at its getting ready to leave shadow position. And this is where, especially the last time Chiron came into Aries in 69, and especially when it came into 70 and 71 and stuff, into these zones, this is where people really just really kind of didn't understand who they are and felt kind of like, I guess you could say, like, I don't know if I really want to, step into my true self. I want to start playing with other characters. I want to, try this outfit or play with my hair this way or do whatever, because a lot of people were unsure of who they were. Chiron in Aries is unsure of, its identity and self. It's questioning it, or it's afraid to embrace it. It's humbling yourself about who you really are. And this humbling aspect is pretty intense, as Mars this week is sextiling Chiron, giving the facts. These are the facts. Look at the dispositor of Mars and Gemini, which, honestly, if you think about it, look, whenever Mars, you got the sun and it's exaltation. So the dispositor of Mars is great. But this Gemini element, when we look at Mercury, it's got Mars in Gemini. And when you got Mars in Gemini, we now have to identify with the real factual truth. And we need to re-examine and get on our laptop computers, or we need to get on to the calculators, and we need to actually start to play out what's been going on in the past. We need to actually do the calculations of when we look at our environment, and is this environment really taking us to the greatest place ever? Or are we really actually gonna put on this suit that we really don't like and actually own it? Do we really need to own that? And especially, look at the semi-sextile to Uranus from Mars. Chiron semi-sextile over to Uranus. Uranus is fucking with everything. It's semi-sextiling Chiron. It's semi-sextiling Mars. It's semi-squaring over to Neptune, Mercury, the moon. It's going to semi-square Venus. We got to wake up. Because this is outer entities trying to mess and confuse you of what is the best for you to ascend higher. But it will do everything it can to confuse you, distract you, and get you to own a story that you already know the outcome, or you have already karmically been through it before. The best way for people to enter as if you were a dark reptilian being would be to enter into the new age of the 2020s, to set people up in 2019 and lock them and secure them in past life karmic stories they've already been through before, and have them believe that it's the most amazing thing and it's the thing to go to the future with, and because it's just going to be a repeat. Why do you think Jupiter and Saturn are conjunct in 2020 at the end in Aquarius? To me, that is like first of all, it's the first time Jupiter and Saturn have conjuncted in an air sign in hundreds of years, but more importantly, and especially in Aquarius, what do you think that means? Oh, the ultimate breakout of jail ever from humanity? Probably from waking up, especially as Jupiter is going to come into its fall sign of Capricorn and sextile over to Neptune and double down on that even more. With Saturn and Pluto conjunct exactly. I've been trying to wake people the hell up because you have this astrology right now giving you an out, okay? You have an out. But are you going to use that out? Or are you going to go jump backwards? Let's go to Wednesday real quick. This is the darkest of the dark moon. Boom. This dark moon, by the way, did conjunct Mercury and Neptune because it was within the balsamic phase of the moon of 30 degrees. It was 27 degrees, 26 degrees. So the dark moon on Wednesday is going to cross over Chiron and Aries, and it is going to come to the last degree of the zodiac. That is a dark, 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 dark moon. And it's happening while Mercury is still trying to pass Neptune, still on top of it. No matter how much Mercury is trying to go, it is like a crazy weirdo that is holding onto the back of the shirt of someone like, no, I'm not letting you go. I want you to buy this delirium story, and I want you to remember it. So I'm going to put it on top of you. Because Neptune is sure compassionate. It has to surrender. Because the real understanding of surrender is like not buying into the story if it doesn't feel right. Not buying into the visualization if it doesn't feel right. Like when I go watch a movie or if I listen to a song and it's talking about, popping bottles and, that life is about like, money ain't a thing and throwing, bitches in the air and all these kind of things. Like, you really think that like I buy that story? Like I just surrender and go, no, and I let it pass through me with compassion. Like I don't get angry at it. I don't go on some vendetta, I guess, against it, but it's about not accepting it. But when it comes to as a leader, as somebody to wake people up, I directly show them what's happening and am trying to tell you that all the stories that have gone on, especially through this last 4 to 5 weeks here, you need to, whatever you think that you have started to believe that you can fix, isn't going to be fixable. Especially relationship bound, because I feel that this is relationship karma that is going to try to break itself from the last 35 years since the Pluto-Saturn conjunction. And as we look at this, man. Saturn-Pluto South Node still 23. Remember, Pluto is going to retrograde at 23. But 23 is a magical number too. Not only is it Jim Carrey's number for a movie that he did, it is also the number of his production company. It is a 5. It is a mental number. It is the middle number between the 9 numbers. Okay? And this deceptive energy and this integration of penetration from forces trying to control the world and control humanity, especially, are doing this in a way about your head and in your mind. And about stories and about, trying to trap you in a old school, traditional way of living and rules and, more importantly, traditions that will make you feel like you're wrong if you don't go through these traditional aspects. The whole part of this whole astrology right now of evolution of Pluto, Saturn, and South Node is to break all traditions. That we are done with this paradigm and how it has been working. And so the Decepticon that's going on is having you believe in old school traditions again. And the fear with this semi-square to Uranus with Mercury, Neptune, and a dark moon now in Pisces going to conjunct Chiron, of you being like, well, gosh, I don't know if I really have the courage to go through that, and I'm really sensitive, and you know what, I'm too afraid to fully emotionally let it all go. And start taking on more crap. And start really buying into a story. Because when Mercury's past Neptune, with this new moon on Thursday, it's going to be a major wake-up call. And Mars is sextiling over to Chiron. And Mars-Chiron sextile is kind of funky. Because really what it is like, unless we really accept the truth, then we can really finally have the courage to move forward through our life. But if we are not going to listen to the facts, if we're not going to actually look at the environment that we're in, and we're not going to actually take to stock and see if it's the best for us, especially with the semi-sextile to Uranus, that's greater, and is it moving you to a greater path? Or are you really just limiting yourself to, I'm only as good for this. I will accept this. I'll accept this. This is what's acceptable to me and my values. Because if all humanity right now accepts their values at the very beginning of the Uranus-Taurus transit for 7 years, right now, what better way than for the dark to truly rule this world by just keeping humans accept this, be committed to these traditions, commit yourself to this, and that's what it is. And you know, relationships are a big deal with Venus in its exaltation coming towards this Neptune, that the dark moon, it wasn't exactly dark, but it did get dark right after the pass of Venus, and we almost buy this whole beautiful vision. And then we move into a dark moon. What better way? Throw the candy person outside, get them into the candy thing, and then lock the doors. Did you hear about that story about that woman recently who just got killed? Who the car showed up, she thought it was her Uber, she got in, the guy fucking throws the child locks on, she closes the door and fucking takes her away. It is so what is going on right now in the world. Like when I grew up, there was a guy who sold ice cream. I won't say his name. And he used to go around, and if you asked for, when we found out when we were older, if you asked for an Orange Crush, you didn't get candy, you didn't get an Orange Crush soda, you got drugs. And he got caught for that. He did have good ice cream, though, as a kid. But I will tell you that this is where some really funky stuff is going on in the world and revealing a lot of funky stuff, but that's external. What internally in you is funky that you are in a weird way deceiving yourself, that you know the truth about, that you're afraid to really break that cycle finally? That's what this new moon's about. Let's take a look at this new moon. So, I actually did it exact so you guys can all see here. So the new moon is technically Friday, but it's happening Thursday. So actually, let's go back to Thursday here. So Thursday, you'll see the new moon's building. The moon will finally pass over this craziness. I'm calling this crazy land. From Chiron to Neptune, the midpoint. Oh my gosh, that is crazy land. And look at Mercury's in the middle of that. So if you think just because Mercury's come off Neptune, it's over. Yes, it feels better because Mercury's now out of, okay, I'm out of the story, let me see. But now it's looking at Chiron. So it's almost willing to accept the identity of the story that it almost is willing to believe that is actually holding ourselves back. It's like ready to accept that. Like, I'm okay. But this new moon in Aries is like, no, I will not accept that. No, this is a new year. I do not want 2018 to repeat again. No. And you've got Saturn, Pluto in the South Node all here looking at the sun in its exaltation going, if he actually thinks he'll win with his exaltation, Pluto is giving the power to Tripoli, or I guess you could say, like, I never really was good at math. I guess I'm good at geometry because I'm an astrologer, but I never went to geometry. But like, when you can to the power 2, if you remember that, to the power 2, like where you could add more power to a math equation. Pluto on top of Saturn in its home sign with the South Node makes Saturn like a fucking motherfucking guy who injects steroids. Remember, Kronos eats babies, okay? This guy is eating babies morning, noon, and night, okay, with steroids and chomping them down in his car like baby dots, baby chips, everything. Okay? If you think that this new moon in Aries, even though it's exalted and yes, it's going to move you forward, you need to be careful of the story you move forward in, because it is being squared. And even though the sun in Aries is confident and it's Troy of going to go in and it's going to take over, and it's, the centaurs, it's centurions, it's, oh my gosh, power and a warrior. Oh my gosh, it's coming into Kronos that eats babies at its tripled power, at the highest power degree it's ever been in our lives. And this is the power of control. The control has more power right now than confidence. And why do you think we had the Pluto-Uranus squares? By the way, in 2014, at 14, 15 degrees. Exact. The middle, or the peak out, I would say, of the Pluto-Uranus squares. This new moon is right on top of that space. So, all of the work that everybody did through the whole spiritual evolution since 2012 is coming to this point of 2019, and whether or not they're going to use this Jupiter to explore new territory, open up new stories, to do their great light work, or double down with the square to Neptune, with the Decepticon that's being powered by Saturn with a south node in control, and go through a past life story all over again and just replay it all, instead of open up. And if you want to learn that way and relearn again, there might be a lot of people out there that want to relearn all this again. But I know that we all don't want to do that. And I know that with where the astrology is in the future, and that we are all ascended beings, that we are going to have to make some tough choices. And it's just tough choices of like being your authentic full self fully, that we all have subconscious stuff that we need to let go of. And we, more importantly, need to have the confidence to just own ourselves. And when the power control system comes, be like, I understand how to play your game, but I am not going to accept the story that will trap me in your game. I will get through the maze, but I will not own your crazy story that will actually have me stay in the maze. Some deep shit. Now let's do that new moon. That new moon, 15 degrees, okay? Bang, exactly squaring where the new moon was at the beginning of the year, okay? Solar eclipse. So we are now halfway through because we're in cardinal signs, and that was in a cardinal sign. But look at this, Saturn at 20 degrees now, and the south node at 22. So now the south node has left Pluto, and that's why I'm saying, how ironic on the new moon that why would the south node leave Pluto? And why would Mercury now be exactly a degree away from Neptune? And, truly, why would that all happen on the day of the new moon? Like it really is because the universe, the dark beings know, and I really believe this, truly, that this new moon right now at 15 degrees is literally at the halfway point of understanding where people are teeter-tottering between authentic self and false self. Because on the first half of Aries is Chiron. And trailing behind them is Mercury conjunct Neptune with Venus in exaltation, buying the candy of, what is kind of a delusion, especially with a Mars square. It's not exact, but Mars is in Gemini trying to say, hey, what's going on? And it's this angle is the weirdest to me. Sesquiquadrate to Pluto and to Saturn and the South Node. Like, this is understanding the control that we put on ourselves and from outside resources, because Uranus is involved with this Mercury thing, that we have to fight through and see clearly and be heard to our soul's true voice and to who we really are. And this new moon is saying we need to come out on the right side of things. Look at, even the universe has tried to turn me off. No joke. That's never happened before. I've been doing this chart program for a long time. It's never done that. Think about this. 15 degrees. You are at a place where you are halfway in between who you really are going to be or who you're going to jump into be. And with the square to Saturn, it's about, okay, I need to make some pretty serious choices here about my path. And with the North Node now in Cancer, at 22 degrees, there is a square to the nodes with this new moon because we are at the in-between part of eclipses. And this square part is really bringing up to the position to, sure, it's enticing with Rahu to, of course, an aim towards Cancer, but Cancer is a very tricky sign as well because the foundational root is about your own foundational root. It's a cardinal sign. Cancer tries to have the quality of wanting to take care of others and so forth, but the first thing is self-care. And this is where we all have to have self-care in our own self first before we can go take care of other people. And this is the gnarliest part because I feel that people are looking into the home and family thing very intensely right now, where the whole spiritual community doesn't have a home and family, especially when relationships are going to be brought up more intense. And I brought this up in my magazine, so I'm not bullshitting this. I wrote that magazine in fucking August and September of 2018. When I saw the Saturn-Pluto of 83 coming to its conjunction point at the end of this year and going to be with the South Node this year, and more importantly, with these major double full moons in Libra, and with this stuff changing in the middle of this crazy portal with Mercury, Neptune, I knew in my heart. And with Saturn, Pluto, with this trap in the South Node of trying to contain you, by tricking you into kind of like creating like this own kind of safe place, which really is actually holding you from your mission and holding the light worker community and the spiritual community to find a home, because it's going to be like, there's going to be on the other side of this, especially when we come into July, when the new moon solar eclipse is in Cancer. Where is everyone? Who showed up? Or who got stuck in that trap? Who got stuck in that trap? Do you think that the founding fathers, when they went to create the Declaration of Independence, and by the way, I've already said this, but Benjamin Franklin changed the date from July 2nd to July 4th because the moon was in Capricorn in full at its detriment, and he used his farmer's almanac, and he was an astrologer, and he moved it to the 4th because the moon would be in Aquarius, right? And what I'm trying to say here is that I bet you they knew back then when they went to that meeting who didn't make the meeting, who got trapped by the story of believing that it was maybe wrong to do this, or got caught up in some sort of big, weird situation with some partner or some relationship or creating some other world that isn't on the mission. North Node of Cancer to me, of course, personally is self-care, but on a broader scope, because I'm an evolutionary astrologer, it is creating the new home for spirituality. But in order for that home to be met, individuals need to show up now with this square point of this new moon of their true authentic self, identity, soul, and mission, and have zero connections to hoarding and holding on to something that they have a fear of letting go. And a truth that they know deep down inside that they have to listen to, that's going to be complicated and difficult, especially that this is the last week of all the planets direct, because when all the planets start retrograding, you're in that story. And a new moon seeds the new month. And this is an important one with all the planets direct. This is one where the sun is exalted, and it's right before it's going to square Saturn, because when the sun squares Saturn in 5 days, this is the exact day Jupiter goes retrograde. So if you're going to try and tell me that things are going to go really positive next week with the Jupiter retrograde and the sun square Saturn, with Saturn in its home sign, going to beat out the sun in exaltation, with Jupiter in its home sign in its dignity, retrograde, stationary, I would pay attention, folks, that what you start to create about your story this week is something that you do not want to go into next week and stamp like a tattoo that will be living with you for a long time and will not be easy to remove. That is why I am bringing all this up in the middle of this Mercury-Neptune ending, in the middle of all this stuff with this new moon. We'll just move on to the weekend real quick. After this new moon happens, the moon comes into Taurus. And now we move into the whole new cycle where it's going to conjunct Uranus, and the moon now is going to be in semi-square over to Neptune. Now the moon, is in Taurus of its exaltation at least. And it can actually start to feel the right things about this Uranus thing, about if this energy really feels right or wrong. So right after this new moon, it's kind of like either A, you're going to go do some radical thing and own something that you really have to probably look at all angles a little bit longer, or more importantly, make sure that you emotionally are ready to disconnect, because the next time that the moon comes over Uranus, the sun will have lit up and turned on Uranus in Taurus for the first time in 70 plus years. Because you got to remember that the moon now in Taurus won't come back around for 28 days, and within less than 28 days, the sun will conjunct Uranus. So, as an evolutionary astrologer, this is the last time that we could be tricked into owning something that we don't even know if we should own it or not. Think about that shit. That's what this weekend's really about. Understanding that disconnection and observation and logical thinking, and really making sure that you're looking at all angles of what you're trying to own here is actually going to take you to the best path. And it's very easy and enticing when the moon this weekend on Sunday sextiles over to Venus and starts to play this game of, this feels really good. We got Venus and the moon of exaltation. Now, I'm not trying to say negative things. If you watch my daily horoscopes, I go into more of the actual day and how it's going to feel and so forth. And I'm just giving you an overall, but I'm really kind of taking a whole different approach to this, that this is the best week of astrology ever to get out of the Decepticon story and move on to the greatest part of your life and own this freedom element of exploring new territory of your soul, or continuing to hold on to energies and relationships and situations that just are continuing to keep you in the same spot. Because this could be about really feeling good about the quality that you want to reach in your life. And yes, this is where people can go into this deceiving story very intensely with Venus, Neptune in almost conjunction with the moon sextile it. And I think that people got to really pay attention. And then the moon is going to trine over to Saturn. And then the moon's going to trine over to all this stuff by the ending of the weekend. I don't think it's a negative week at all, though. I think that if I really look at it, when I get you to Monday, and I'm going to give you the overview here because we're pretty much done as we finish here on Monday, okay? We got the sun at 18 degrees. It is literally a degree and a half away from squaring Saturn. We are literally 2 days away from Jupiter retrograding. So Jupiter will be stationary. Venus and Neptune are going to be conjuncting as Jupiter stationary goes retrograde. Mercury will be coming up towards coming to square Jupiter as it retrogrades. Venus and Neptune will be semi-squaring Uranus, and the moon is going to come over Mars and see the truth in Gemini, as it is going to be like, is this really where I should be? And is this really the place that I should be in my life? Is this really what I want to own and really be part of? Because this is going to be pretty intense next week. So I'm going to finish with this. I know I opened up with, this is so great and amazing, because the energies overall on both negative and positive planes of energies in our universe are all in the positive feeling vibe. And everything that is really negative is hidden. Hidden. There is a lot of great transits this week for feeling great. And I want to make that very clear, that that's why you need to be very careful of the energy and what you're trying to own, what you're going to actually define yourself as, because it will almost seem like ultra magic. When really, there's a bigger test of whether or not it really is the great Oz, and it really is not what's behind that curtain. Now, I want to just say that because next week is so intense and gnarly about not only wake-ups or believing the biggest delusion of all time, or more important than that, getting extremely caught up in, this Venus-Neptune of almost like ingesting and buying and literally owning the most radically insane, with Uranus semi-sextile or semi-square to Neptune ever. Like, not only did Mercury go through that and then almost numb itself down so completely to not even deal with that truth, but it, like I said, there's layers here. That this is going to feel great this week. All to make sure that you know for sure, when you look at that great feeling, what underneath that feels off. This is about you going inside and what feels off. What does not feel fully authentic to yourself fully? Because that is what's going to feel the most amazing. And the energies that are next to you and side by side to you and in your environment, it'll almost feel like everything that's there is making it all possible. But there are little weirdo energies and relationship situations that actually are not making the true sense, but it feels so good being in your authentic self that you can almost believe to take on this negative, alien, outer dimensional, dark energy and own it. This is how the dark comes in. This is how the dark slips in. And this is the most empowering week of anybody's life, or complete delusional, buy a whole new story. And I guarantee you, you will hear this weekend and into next week, people, you're going to hear stories you just didn't even believe. Like, oh my God, we're getting up, we're getting married. Oh my God, we're getting up and we're going to go do this. Oh my God, we're getting up and we're going to go do that. We're going to go do that. We're going to go do that. We're going to do this. I'm doing this. Da, 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 da. And it'll almost seem like, really? That's the best thing that you're going to go do? Like, and I think that this has been a continuing story over the last 3 weeks. And you've been hearing people doing a lot of these things, and you've been like, what the fuck, really? This is the peak, though, of it coming from this week into next week, and with this full moon that will happen in Libra 2 weeks from now. Because if I look at the astrology this week, I'm sorry, I showed you all, it's all hidden stuff. It's all stuff you're not going to see. It's all stuff that you're not going to see in a chart, really, unless you look real deep, unless you understand the whole behind the scenes thing going on. And I think that the way I could end this is, you only know your authentic self, and do not let powers of control, old traditional systems, and intense, powerful energies from beyond a world that we even know, that are trying to infiltrate into your storyline, into your mind, into your world, and control it and shift it and change it to redirect the exaltation of your soul's power and identity to get off track. And it will look like you're on the tracks. Or better yet, let's get you on the tracks and throw a bunch of weight on it so you actually go real slow, but it makes you feel like, yeah, we're going. I don't know why my stepdad comes up. My guys want to say this. We're at a 13,000 square foot building here. We have homeless people that, live on the train tracks and stuff. My stepdad just found out this week, when they went on his roof, that there's a homeless guy living on his roof. He had no idea. So I have to go check and see. They're going to go check. They're checking all the buildings now to see How many homeless people are living on top of our buildings? Now, I'm not saying that's bad or good or anything. All I'm saying is like, that is the last thing in my mind that I thought would be happening on my stepdad's building, a homeless guy living on his roof. His warehouse is across the street from mine, okay? Like, probably, I haven't even told Craig yet. I bet he's like, what the fuck, there's a homeless guy living up there? Like, literally taking piss and shitting and shit up there, too. All I'm trying to say is like, and I'm not saying homeless people are negative entities. I'm using an example that is going to disconnect from that, okay? But there are entities that are hidden in the most personal spaces in your life right now, and you have no idea that they're in there trying to get in, or whether that's succubus energy, or whether that's sucking you, or whether that's being a dark entity that is trying to control you. This is the peak of it through these next couple weeks. And this new moon is about having the power, the vitality, the courage, the strength, and the knowing of the facts. Thank God for Mars and Gemini, because this is going to be courage through facts. The fact is, there is a homeless person living on my stepfather's roof, and now we understand to get that person off and try and hopefully find a better place for that person, because living on a roof is not a great place, number one, and then pissing and shitting on a roof is not a great place either, and especially when in the rain and all that stuff, not a good place. But on the same token too, it's not the best, place even for my stepdad, who's working his butt off and paying all the rent, and this guy can just stay up there, right? There's an imbalance of of what's fair and what's not fair, and that's what this whole entire double full moon is about. Is you're going to have to look at everything from an Aries point of view now that Uranus has left. This is the first new moon in Aries without Uranus in Aries. Think about that one. Since 2010. So, this is you not having the radical, exciting understanding of you. It's almost like you were going to be tested to see if you know how to own that exciting and radical self, or you were going to buy the Chiron version now and go, you know what? Because nobody that's been alive now, remember that Chiron was opposing during the time that Chiron was in the 60s, like Chiron was with Saturn. Chiron is now coming closer to Uranus. This is different. Chiron used to be opposed to Uranus the last time Chiron was in Aries, because Uranus was on the other side. This is the first time in all of our lives that we are getting closer with Chiron, where Chiron is literally less than 30 degrees away from Uranus, right? Okay? This is super important for people to realize. Are you going to buy this whole Chiron story and whittle yourself away and define yourself from who you really are not? I am going to the Maldives, and I am leaving the last week of May. I have a reading sale going on because I'm not going to be doing readings all through June because I'll be out in the Maldives. You can go to leoking.com. I've got a big discount on there if you type in the discount code stress-free, so I can look at your charts and help you all understand what's going on and to really understand the story of what's happening through this period. So please check that out, leoking.com. Also, we have an awesome school, highvibetvschool.com, to help you with all this energy about staying in your light work. Because to be honest with you, being a light worker, it really is a 100% commitment to changing the world and bringing light and bringing positivity and bringing truth, because light is truth. Sometimes that truth comes out in the most inspiring ways, and sometimes it comes out in the most just deep, truthful ways. And today, I gave you just hardcore truth. Check that out, highvibetvschool.com. We got a payment plan if you want the all-in-one, or you can buy each individual course. It's super awesome. I'm going to leave it there with you all. I'm sending you my best. I'm sending you all the energy I can to connect with your guides and to understand, to see the layers of all the stuff that is trying to bombard you with almost believing and almost starting to create a story you know is not the story and who you are. And I don't want to create some sort of pandemic or some sort of fear about people, but it is more like what you externalize as your value, as your partners, as the things in your life that you are putting your energy into. Is it going to distract you from your true mission fully? And have you just been playing lollygag and actually been kind of not doing the full mission fully? Sending you my best. Love to you all. Please spread this message, and I'll see you all every day if you're on futurelife.tv, which is turning to High Vibe TV soon. The apps are out for submission for approval. We'll let you know soon when it's all out. Thanks so much. Talk to you later.